Hi everyone, my name's Brenna. I'm an employee here at NOCD. I also have OCD myself and have gone through NOCD therapy. I can tell you firsthand how much ERP and behavioral therapy has changed my life. And now I'm here just to talk about it because I want to spread awareness on OCD and effective treatment and also just provide hope for those that are struggling because I know just how debilitating OCD can be. I also help manage our Instagram account. It's at Treat My OCD. Every Wednesday, I host an Instagram Q&A on our stories. So if you're interested, feel free to check our Instagram out on Wednesdays and feel free to ask a question. And I'll try my best to answer the questions via video, coming from a lived experience perspective. We all have that one person in our lives that just doesn't understand OCD. Or if you're trying to tell them your OCD experience, or they just start talking about OCD in a bad light and doesn't represent what OCD truly can be. We all have that one person, and it can be frustrating. Trust me, I understand. So, in this video, we're going to talk about how to combat that and how to explain it to a friend or family member or someone in your life that doesn't understand OCD. If you have OCD, you know how debilitating it can be. So, whenever someone doesn't take OCD seriously or just talks about it in the cleaning and organizing aspect of it, or obsessive Christmas disorder. I don't know if anyone else has heard that, but I've heard that. And, I know how offensive and how frustrating it can be whenever someone says that, especially if it's someone close in your life. And especially if you even shared with them your OCD experience and they still don't get it. I've been there. You're not alone. It can be really frustrating. However, this may be a hot take, but I truly believe that it's not that people are trying to frustrate you and offend you. They just simply don't understand. If they knew how debilitating it was for you and knew how you were feeling, they probably wouldn't be saying that. And another reason is that social media and pop culture a lot of times shows OCD as just cleaning and, being tidy and being organized, which some people, their OCD can really latch on to those things. It really can. But for a lot of people, most people, their OCD has absolutely nothing to do with being clean or tidy or organized. For instance, that's mine. I've never dealt with OCD where it has latched on to being clean or tidy or organized. All of my OCD has been in my brain. So I've had scary, intrusive thoughts or obsessions, and I perform mental compulsions to get them out of my brain, which then, gets us stuck in the OCD cycle. So I try to not get too frustrated at people. And this has took me a long time to get to this point because I know how frustrating it can be whenever someone says something offensive about OCD or they're just sharing misconceptions. I know how frustrating it can be, but I try to look at it as they just don't understand. So, what we need to do is make more people understand what OCD can be. I think whenever someone doesn't have OCD or they don't understand what OCD is, a great first starting point is by sharing with them what OCD actually is and the OCD cycle as a whole. So, we're going to get into what the OCD cycle actually is, and I'm going to use an example for the cycle. So, when we talk about the OCD cycle, it normally goes like this. So, first, you have an obsession, which can be an intrusive thought, image, urge, sensation, whatever it is. And a lot of times our obsessions latch onto the things that we value the most. They cause a lot of anxiety and they're ego dystonic, meaning that they go against what we truly want. So that's the first step in the OCD cycle is that we have this obsession. It pops in our brain. We don't have any control over it. It just pops in our brain and we don't like it. The second part is the anxiety and the distress that those obsessions bring on. A lot of times it can be really debilitating for people and uncomfortable to sit with. So at that point, people are like, I need to get this feeling away from me. These anxiety feelings and these obsessions, they're making me too uncomfortable. We have to get rid of them somehow now. So now is step 3 in the OCD cycle, which are compulsions. Compulsions can be mental or physical, and it's basically anything that you're doing to get rid of the anxiety that your obsessions bring on. So for me, my compulsions have looked like avoiding certain things, Googling, it's asking for reassurance. It's analyzing my thoughts and saying, do I actually want these thoughts? I'm like testing myself if I like the thoughts. So the compulsions. Now, actually performing a compulsion sends a false threat to our brain saying that, oh, this obsession is actually something that we need to be worried about. This is a threat, and you did the right thing by performing a compulsion. And that compulsion will provide us that short term of relief because we found an answer to our obsessions. We found what we think is the answer. And that threat keeps us stuck in the OCD cycle because the compulsions provide a short term relief, but long term struggle. Because right after a compulsion, what normally happens with OCD is because you're signaling to your brain that you need to do a compulsion to make yourself feel better. The obsession comes right back up, the anxiety, compulsion, go again. And it's just a cycle over and over and over again. And it seems like you're doing the right thing in the moment. You're trying to get rid of your anxiety, but it's not working. Where ERP comes in and how you can break the cycle is you have an obsession, you have that anxiety, but we're not going to try to perform any of our compulsions. Now, it takes time and practice and a great therapist with you to do it. I've done this. I know how scary it can be, but you can do it. ERP teaches you that you are strong enough to sit in the anxiety and discomfort of your obsessions without performing compulsions. So, we're going to talk about an example to go along with the OCD cycle to hopefully make it more sense. So, say an obsession comes in your brain and it says, what if this headache is actually a brain tumor and I'm slowly dying? So, that obsession pops in and it causes a lot of anxiety for the person experiencing it. It's saying, I need to figure out right now if this is a tumor. I don't know what's happening. It feels real. My head starts to hurt. So what they do to get rid of the anxiety is, people Google, their symptoms or use Chat GPT or call a doctor or whatever they do at that point to get rid of the anxiety that the obsession brings on. Then, of course, once you find your answer to the question, there's always another what if. OCD will never be satisfied with the answer that you bring it. So instead of trying to find an answer to the what if, we need to sit with the anxiety that the thought is just present. You're not accepting the content of the thought. You're just accepting the fact that, oh no, this thought popped in my brain and I don't know if it's true. I'm going to live my life despite it. And what we're doing is actually showing OCD that we don't need to be worried about this thought. We don't need to perform compulsions, even though it feels weird. I don't really know what's going to happen. But over time, our brain realizes that you can sit with those really scary, uncomfortable feelings without performing compulsions. I also think intrusive thoughts in our society has become kind of a trend talking about it. While I think that's great and it brings awareness to mental health and OCD, a lot of times intrusive thoughts aren't talked about correctly. I think a good point is that everyone experiences intrusive thoughts. Everyone does. Whether they realize it or not, intrusive thoughts are just part of the normal human experience. Now, someone that doesn't have OCD, they have a scary, weird, intrusive thought, they can recognize that and then move on with their day. It's not really a big deal. Now, someone that does have OCD, the intrusive thought pops in and it sends that false threat to our brain. Our brain freaks out, and there needs to be something done to get rid of that intrusive thought. And we can't move on with our day until we do. That's the difference between someone with and without OCD and intrusive thoughts. So I think that's really important to note and something that you can bring up to people because I'm sure most people nowadays have heard of the term intrusive thoughts. So I think that's a great explanation to start with. So the OCD cycle and then intrusive thoughts, that everybody has them, but people with OCD, something is going on in our brain that makes us stuck in the OCD cycle whenever an intrusive thought pops in. I also think sometimes it can be hard to talk about OCD and to talk about your own experience. And I totally understand that. So I think another great thing that you could do to explain OCD to someone that doesn't get it is by just showing them things online that you see about OCD and can resonate with. On our page at Treat My OCD, we try to post a lot of videos and images that can hopefully explain what OCD can look like for everyone. So feel free to check out our page, and there's lots of great resources. Also on our website, nocd.com, we have tons of blogs and articles written by our therapists and clinicians here at NOCD talking about OCD and all different themes of OCD. So it's very helpful. I actually use those articles and blogs all the time and send them to family and friends because sometimes I don't want to talk about it and I just want to send them an article and be like, hey, this is what I'm struggling with. I don't really feel like talking about it too much, but this article explains it really well. Do you mind taking, glancing over this and reading it? And I think you'd find that most people want to be there for you and want to understand what you're dealing with. They just haven't been given the correct and accurate information on OCD. OCD is misrepresented and misunderstood, and that can be really, really frustrating. So that's why here at NOCD, we're on a mission to help bring awareness of what OCD can truly look like and ensure people have access to effective treatment. So if you're ready to take that first step and try ERP therapy, exposure response prevention therapy, feel free to give our team a free 15-minute call by going to our website, nocd.com, and our team would be happy to talk to you. And thanks so much for listening.